Salute, gentlemen.
Sick.
Salute.
Shit, shit.
Ooh, gotta be real.
So last time, me and Chris were just actually saying before we shot this podcast, like instead of having the pressure of all these questions and stuff like that, to just have a conversation.
All right, let's do it.
Yeah.
What do you want to talk?
Well, first and foremost, like, how you been?
I've been good. Been up and down, you know. I was saying earlier before the cameras on that I just came out of like a really heavy dip, like bottom, probably the most rock bottom I've ever hit in terms of business.
Okay.
Where I was the most scared of that experience. Like, you go up and you start to see that you're vulnerable to the fall.
Right.
And I was like, yeah, but that's not gonna happen for a while, you know?
Right.
And then it happened. And I had like my whole team leave. I had to close down 2 shops. I had to come back, be in debt.
When was this? When did this dip happen?
This dip, I would say it started to happen when I left the shop, right? I didn't really notice it, which was during COVID. It was like 2020, 2021.
Oh, okay.
I went down to LA, I went to New York,
Yeah.
and we did a bunch of stuff down there. I had the time of my life, you know?
Right.
But the unfocusedness kind of allowed me to see how hard running a business actually is. Like, when you're there and you're building it, you're excited, you just got your shop, you got new employees and people love you, like, you have that energy, right?
Yeah.
And then
The culture is there.
the culture is there, and then at some point for me, greed kind of came in, and I was looking at my life and I was like, I don't want to do this every day. I don't want to do this for the money that I was making. So it's either I'm gonna go in this route and make so much money, or I had to figure out how I'm gonna like live, you know. And that was kind of that process of me going through that like spiritual kind of experience. And then I had the opportunity during COVID too, and I had no time, like nothing on my hands, right? Because like tattoos, you can't do it during COVID. So I had a lot of time to think, and then during that time I had an opportunity to go down to LA and meet like celebrities and like work with some of the biggest people in the industry. That was huge in my mind.
Right.
That was
How
huge
did
at
you
that
even
time.
get connected like that?
So I used to shoot videos when I was like in high school and uni, and it's a long story. So I got into kind of the music industry through shooting kind of videos, and I network a lot. And then I had a really good friend of mine. At that time, his singer name was Pluto, and he.
Why does that sound familiar?
Yeah, he was kind of big in Toronto
Yeah.
at that time.
Yeah.
Right.
He's
He
from
was coming
Toronto?
out, he was from Toronto.
Yeah.
And it's like he was like his sound.
Was he a singer?
He was a singer.
R&B?
R&B. So
Black guy?
no, white dude. He sounded black. He sounded very black. But he
No, that still sounds familiar.
yeah, Pluto, he was sick, and it was during the time. This was right before Bryson Tiller, right before like Daniel Caesar. At that time, Daniel was not like a big person at all, right?
Right.
He was chilling with Sean at that time, and during that time, it was like Pluto and Sean. That's what everybody thought that was gonna come out of Toronto.
Right.
That was like the biggest thing. Because of him, there was one time he had a SOB show in New York, which is like a huge debut kind of show.
What's a SOB?
SOB is a venue that's
Right.
called SOB, which
I know it is, son of a bitch.
yeah. I might even be wrong, like for the acronym, but that was like one of the places where like, you know, Lil Wayne performed, and like all the big New York people at that time also performed. It's kind of like a staple.
Yeah.
We were 19 at that time. This was a long time ago.
Right. And you're my age now, right? You're 30.
Yeah, I'm 30. I'm 30 now.
Oh,
yeah.
you're 30?
Yeah, 30.
Okay.
I just turned 30.
94.
I'm 94.
Okay.
Yeah. So at that time, just out of university and whatnot, and then we went to. So his team actually didn't end up going to New York because of some like management issues. So it turned out was me, my boy Mike, and not the Mike you guys know, but like my boy Michael, and
The other Mike though that shoots.
yeah,
right?
yeah,
Okay,
the
I
young
met
Mike that
him, yeah.
shoots, and Pluto. So we were 3-man team. We just went to New York because we're like, yo, my boy, this is my boy. We were kind of trying to shoot something. We've never been to New York before, and we ended up like basically crashing at his New York manager's place at that time. And his New York manager, her name's Marielle, and we kind of got connected at that time. I stayed over at their place and whatnot, and I guess from that point we built some kind of
Rapport.
rapport.
Yeah.
So she was studying law and music and whatnot, and then this
This is 10 years ago.
This is 10 years ago.
So you're like 19, 20 years old.
19, 20 years old, and we were just trying to grind and just experience life, and we didn't really know much. And then at that time, I guess we didn't really know how small the music industry was. And then later on, almost all the people we've met during that time became somebody.
That's
right?
crazy.
So
Yeah.
Mario became Beyonce's A&R. We had different managers that became different big managers. We had different musicians kind of like popped off a little bit. We had Savannah Ray and all that. They were all like in the same kind of crew. And I guess like that's where connection kind of goes a long way. You build that rapport with people and you build that trust. And then over time, as you grow up, some people in your realm is like, if you build a strong enough impression with everyone, somebody in that realm is gonna make it, and they're gonna come back to try to help people. And I was basically one of the people that they were like, yo, I fuck with you this whole time. There's no tattoo artists down here really that they know of. So fast forward to 2020. I think it was 2020 or 2021, I forgot. But it was during, the COVID sections. I think it was right before 2020, my bad. Right, like around that time COVID was starting to happen.
Yeah.
I got invited to go down to LA, and I was invited to some writers camp and stuff, and I can't really talk about exactly what happened because I had to sign NDAs and stuff. But that's where, like, it was my first trip in LA, and I met everybody. Like everybody, just on a whim, I met Beyonce and Jay-Z, right? Like just on a whim. And they were just there. We had conversations, and they fucking co-signed me. They were like, yo, your shit is sick. And I was
Like Beyonce, Jay-Z saying this to you.
Yeah, saying
That's
that
crazy.
like in person.
And
Yeah.
this is COVID now.
This is
This is
COVID.
only like 3 years ago.
Exactly. This is only 2-3 years ago.
What were you thinking at that time? Were you like, holy fuck, were you tripping? Do you have
I was
a
definitely
starstruck,
tripping.
like-
Yeah. Well, this is the thing. The first time I was actually starstruck was when I was 19. We walked into the studio and Snoop Dogg was just sitting right there. And that was like the moment where I freaked the fuck out. I thought I would say something. I always thought like, yo, if I met like so-and-so, I'm gonna like, yo, what's up?
And
Like,
I think it's funny because, I'm going to share the
Yeah.
same exact story
Yeah.
about when I saw Snoop Dogg.
Yeah. Oh.
Yeah.
Snoop's one guy I would be starstruck from.
Stars.
Yeah, this guy just has like that aura, you know?
And he was so
SNOW.
chill, so chill. And it was like maybe like 6-7 motherfuckers in the room.
What's up, yo?
Yeah,
Like,
he
what's
was-
up, yo?
Yo, he was so like I didn't say a single word that 4 hours I hung out with.
Yeah.
Didn't say a single word. He called me nephew a couple of times. He was like, he gave me a fist bump. He was super cool, super
Yeah.
cool. But at that time it was like 19.
Yeah.
You didn't know shit. We didn't really think about celebrities. But I remember when I was down in LA, something about it that made me kind of realize that it was really fickle. Like celebrities, like they have so much power, but
What do you mean? What does fickle mean?
fickle just like flimsy. The connection is flimsy. You can't
Right,
really
right.
build anything on top of that, right? And when you're in LA, everybody wants to find the next celebrity. Everybody wants to suck up to somebody. So during that time, I just felt like it was kind of like when I met the celebrities, was kind of like I loved it. Don't get me wrong, I loved it, and I talk about it all the time because it's like, whoa, what the fuck that happened? But at the same time, like, that didn't really add too much to my life. There was a lot of moments where I've met with people that were behind the scenes. Mm-hmm. They built the businesses, and they do. And those people are the ones that kind of like changed my life.
Yeah.
Like Marielle in that sense, like at that time, and I was staying over at her place for that whole duration of time. And every once in a while I'll meet a celebrity here and there, and we've done podcasts with people too that were kind of blowing up at that moment. But she taught me so much more than anything else. And through that experience, I kind of like realized like I wasn't really there for like I wasn't really there for like fame.
Yeah.
I thought I was. You know, I thought that would like make me, you know, which it did. It made me feel really, really good in that moment. It's kind of like doing drugs. It was kind of like being on cocaine. Like it literally
Yeah.
felt like that. You come home high as fuck, right? Like actually high. It's like
And you feel like you're this close to making it because you're
Yeah,
so close to
because
that
you're so close,
fame.
but it's
Yeah.
not real.
It's a facade.
It's
yeah.
a facade. None of that is real. In moments that I needed somebody, my mentor showed up, and I met him for a week, and nobody else was there. Even my friends that went there, that I thought it was my close friends, you know, they didn't show up. Like, so it kind of really showed me what it is. Like, you know, there's so much of ego that I dealt with during that time. And I was, you know, it's that ego of like, yo, I'm sick. And then next day, no one talks to you and you're like, oh, I suck. And then you go from super high to super low, super high to super low. Whereas at the end, you realize like it's never about fame. It has always been about systems behind it, about actual connections, not connections of like, yo, I just met you and we're working together. It's like meaningful connections where, just like Marielle, like she remembered me throughout these years, that we built that connection that became an actual business that we can stand on.
Right.
So it's like, but that was like my up. That was like that moment where I felt like, and right before going down to LA, I was making mad money. Right, I was like
As a tattoo artist.
As a tattoo artist,
Yeah.
and we're number one year after year after year. Playhouse was number one for Mississauga year after year after year, and we had like 6-7 artists that was killing it, and all these other shops were looking at us. So I was like in my ego, and I was thinking like, yo, I'm gonna go high and we're gonna do this. And in my head was like, yo, I'm gonna do this thing with like these celebrities and we're gonna do all these projects. I kept on dreaming about this like reality that never actually happened. It did, but it didn't happen the way that I thought it would. And then I lost all interest. I don't want to do that anymore. Like I don't.
While you were in LA,
While I
or
was
when
in
you?
LA.
Okay.
While, like that's one thing I've learned when I was down
Is
there.
that around the time that I met you?
Yes. So the first times that you met me, and you met my mentor Theo too.
Yeah.
And that was the time we were living in the hills. We were literally having meetings with celebrities every other day.
Why is he your mentor? Like, what makes him a mentor to you?
Oh man, it's a long story. So I've been looking for a mentor my whole life.
Right.
You know, like I think every entrepreneur, at some point, you want to find somebody can tell you what to do.
Annan is like a mentor to me.
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. And it has that same kind of energy too. With me, I've been an artist my whole life, and this sounds really cocky to say, but this is my reality. For the longest time, I was the best artist I knew, right? And if I'm not the best artist I knew, that person was doing something lower than what I wanted to achieve. So it was never somebody that I looked at and I was like,
I want to be in your shoes.
I want to be in your shoes. I
Yeah.
want to do that. So then I built up this ego. Like I'm talking about my whole life. I'm literally my whole life. Like ever since I had my first memory, I've already been drawing for years. So I started drawing. At 3, I started to have conscious. At 5, I started taking classes. You know, by the time I was in grade 6, I was already drawing like human figures pretty well. And then by the time I was in high school, like I had my own shows. Like I did all the projects in the school. Like it was like an ego thing. Like I'm the artist because everybody saw me as the artist. You know. And then when I got to high school, that was where that ego kind of like collapsed, because the reason why I started drawing was to get people to like me, right? So that I have something to show, like, yo, you like this is sick, right? But there's always an alignment where if I did something so sick and I showed you and then you're like, yo, that's sick. There's that alignment, right? I tried really hard. I got to a point where no matter what I did, people thought it was sick. And then I would do something so hardcore onto the things I actually want to do. Nobody gave a fuck. Like nobody, it's the same.
What
way.
would be an example of that?
Just a painting, for example.
Okay.
Like everybody like loves realism, how to draw an eye so well, how to draw a face so well. By the time I got to grade 10, I already done all of that. So then it was like, yo, like I can draw a better face, but you're not gonna be more impressed because you can't even tell the difference between my last year's progress to this year's progress. So I felt like very lonely, in a sense, where you felt like you got to a certain level and now you don't know what to do, and all you have that motivates you is ego, is like me wanting to be better than somebody, which is a terrible way of doing art, right? So like I kind of got into this weird mental space like, yo, I'm the sickest, but at the same time I suck, right? Because I don't know. I haven't made it yet. You know, I don't have like actual like crazy painting sales and I can live off of, but at the same time everybody thinks I'm sick, right? It's a weird place. And then when I went to LA, and this is years after, right? After I've fucking been the tattoo artist, I've painted, and everybody fucking loves my painting. I had this crazy ego about me. I met my mentor at my show, the first show that I did
This is an art show?
This is an art show
Right.
of
Not
my painting,
tattoos,
not
paintings,
tattoos.
stuff
Yeah,
like that,
just
right?
paintings. And
And during this
Yeah.
time, like, how much are you selling your paintings for?
no, I haven't so far.
Yeah,
I haven't sold
okay.
a single piece.
Okay.
Yeah, so
Okay.
far in my life.
Yeah.
At that time, I was just
this is
doing
COVID.
shows, and this is COVID, 2021 when I did my show, and I met him, and he's the first motherfucker that looked at my paintings. I was like, it's cool. You know, just that's it. That's the worst thing you want someone to say, right? When like the better thing than that is like, I fucking hate this. Like even if
Indifference
they hate
is the worst, right?
Indifference
Yeah.
is the worst
Yeah.
to go to your art, right? So I just felt like a little bit of kind of like a ways, but at the same time I felt so rejuvenated. It was like now somebody I can actually impress, right? But at the same time I kind of wrote him off as somebody that was like, oh, you're not knowledgeable in art, that's why you don't really think my shit is sick, you know?
Yeah.
And then he showed me around the museums. That was when you were there too. That we went to
What's it called again? The Getty or something
the
like
Getty,
that?
yeah, the Getty Museum in LA. And when he took me to all these museums, this motherfucker showed me every single painting.
Yeah.
He literally like go to any museum, you'll be like, oh, this artist did this and around this
So
time.
you know he's knowledgeable.
He's
Yeah.
very knowledgeable,
Yeah.
more knowledgeable than any person I've ever met. Better than my art teachers, all my art mentors. Like nobody can compare. And then later on, I started to find out the type of person he actually was, and the level of understanding of art he was. He was eons ahead of me, and that gave me that new life. And mind you, at that time I was like full of ego, man. I was like, you know, it's like, yo, bro, I'm about to fucking send a painting to B, and you know, I'm like tattooing like real, like actual, like I wouldn't say CEOs, but like people that were like really behind the scenes for music, some of the biggest, most powerful people. Like that's what I felt. I was like, yo, I'm sick, you know? And then when I found him, it was kind of like a big real and fake difference. I realized what I was into, that all that ego, all that like not fame, because I wasn't famous, but I was around fame, around these levels
plugged.
of, yeah, I was plugged in, and it felt fake comparing to the real thing of innovation, learning what art is, changing the world. He's huge on changing the world. He believes that we have the capability to actually do something, to actually change the world. Not like, yo, I'm gonna do some cool shit. I made a lot of money and I made a little difference. He's like, literally, he believes
Like an
in,
Elon Musk or something.
yeah, like an Elon Musk. He believes in that we are capable to do all of that. So we went through so many layers, and he changed my entire mentality about what art is, why I'm an art artist. He brought me to meet some of the dopest artists ever lived, and it was like a slap in the face, man. Like this one guy I met, Chai De-ching, that's his name. He's one of the godfathers of performance art. So like he was in the 70s, 80s. He's the
Yeah.
one that like really pushed performance art forward.
Yeah, yeah.
And it's a huge innovation in art. And I remember we chilled, we watched opera together, and on the way out, Theo asked De-ching, was like, hey, how do you like about the opera? He was like, oh, I don't know too much about art, so like I liked it, you know. And then that was when I was like, yo, okay, dude. Like I went really straightforward. I was like, okay, dude, I've been nice this whole time, but I gotta say, like, what the fuck did you just say? Like, you don't know much about art. You're like a god. You're like a fucking god. Like, how do you not know much about art? You know what I mean? Like, do you fathom that you created a whole genre of art? It's not even a piece of painting. You
Yeah,
create
yeah.
an entire genre that now everybody's doing.
Are you
Like,
talking about like those guys that like that one guy that like he'll put like ink on a stone and like
no, no, no.
Like, well, yeah, what is performance art
Perform-
in this
so,
context?
his graduation piece, he jumped out of his dorm window and broke his legs.
the fuck?
That was his first piece. And then his first real piece, after he came to America, he locked himself in a basement inside of a cage where he didn't talk to anybody, didn't have any entertainment, no music, no like books, nothing, no writing, no speaking. And he locked himself, basically solitary confinement. His friend will give him 3 meals a day, and he did that for an entire year.
Damn.
And he filmed it. His second one after that,
That's
he
fucking crazy.
it's crazy. And then he put an alarm clock for every hour. So he woke up every hour at the clock, punched in, and the thing took a picture. He did that for 365 days, every hour.
Like every time he fell asleep.
No, every hour.
Every hour.
Oh, every hour.
He would just
Yeah.
go and so he will have like 15 alarm clocks right before the hour. So
Yeah,
he
yeah, yeah.
never slept basically for longer than 45 minutes at a time
Interesting.
for the entire year, right? And then after that one, he tied himself to a female coworker of his for an entire year. They did everything together but never touched.
Damn.
Right? So like there's more. Like he just kept on doing these
So
things.
his objective in his pieces and like what he's exploring is kind of obscure.
It wasn't that. So what he didn't have
Yeah.
an objective actually. That's the crazy part. But what he ended up doing is he redefined what art means. Before that, art is an object.
Oh, that's crazy. Because
Yeah.
like he defined
Define
that
the
whole
art.
genre.
Think about how crazy
Yeah,
that
it just
is.
clicked how crazy it is.
How crazy that is, right?
Yeah,
like
yeah.
for an art. So
Because
what-
so many people do that now. You
yeah,
know, so
and
many people.
because
do,
of
but then
people
he's
like
the
him.
god. Right,
because
right.
he's one of
He's
the
like
godfathers.
he's like the pioneer of social experiments almost.
Exactly, almost, and he did so much, right?
It's like it reminds me of Mr. Beast, like the lengths that he's willing to take, just counting to 1,000,000 and filming it.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. And
Right.
that's like I would say a lot of modern day film culture is influenced by that. A lot of fashion is influenced by that. Some of the greatest performance artists nowadays who influence fashion and music are influenced by him. Right? So it's like he's one of the most fundamental creators there are, right? And this motherfucker, yo,
He's like, I don't know much about art.
he's like, I don't know much about art. So then I told him, I was like, yo, like you're fucking crazy for saying that. Like, do you fathom that you create a whole genre of art?
What'd he
And
say? Yeah.
Oh my god, it was like a slap in the face, man. He was like, yo, man, I was the best time waster when I did this. It's like nobody
Interesting.
believed in this shit. It's like I wasn't doing art. I was just doing me. I had a concept and I did it. And now you guys made it into something. And then I was like, yo, but
it's crazy,
yeah, but this is the thing.
and that's why it gained the attention that it
Exactly, it was crazy. But then I was like, yo, but you have to fathom that it was really difficult to do though. Right? Like to not sleep for a whole year, to solitary confinement for a whole year. Like that's very, very, very difficult to do.
See, I
you
wonder
have to give yourself credit.
because you're saying he didn't have an objective, right?
No, but
so
this
like
is-
for him to punch in and do that, was
Yeah,
that just for him?
Yeah. So
Damn.
so what he told me when I said like, yo, dude, like that, like, at least you have to give yourself the credit that it's very difficult to do what you have done. And he looked at me in my fucking soul and he said, son, life is difficult. Everything you do on earth is difficult. Don't care about that. You want clarity.
Yeah.
When you do something clear enough and long enough, it becomes a concept. That fucking changed my life. I start to realize what I was doing wasn't art. I was drawing. I was painting. It wasn't art. Art is the creation of thought, the innovation of ideas, the idea of ideas.
Yo, I gotta smoke a spliff, man.
Yo, facts.
Holy
facts,
shit.
Trust.
Yeah.
Yo, I should have fucking smoked. Right? Yeah. But
That's crazy.
That's that's the type of level of things that I kind of realized what I was doing. Because in the normal world, as long as you draw, you're an artist, right? But when I figured that out, I realized you can be an artist like a normal artist, or you can be an artist like Picasso. And in order for you to be an artist like Picasso, you got to innovate. You got to change the world. There's a world before Picasso.
So how is that
and a world
defined
after.
though? How do you change the world through art? Do you just you're so thought provoking that you change public opinion? Is that
It's not just that. It's like so. I think art is so fundamental.
Yeah.
It's the most fundamental language that we have. It changes the world in 100 years. It doesn't change the world now. I'll give you an example. Right, when Andy Warhol discovered repetition, right, and you guys know who Andy Warhol is.
I went to his exhibit.
Exhibit.
Yeah.
So
Who's that?
Andy Warhol, you know the chairman Mao with different colored faces, right? Or Marilyn Monroe,
Okay.
and it's like pop colored, different color faces. That's
Okay,
one
yeah,
of his
yeah, yeah.
like most famous type of paintings.
okay.
But this is the
The
thing.
Campbell soup.
The Campbell
yeah,
soup.
yeah,
yeah. That's Andy Warhol.
That's him.
Yeah.
So what he discovered was repetition. So he realized when you repeat things, people pay attention to it way more, right? So he will repeat images and have fade out. All of a sudden, they have all these meanings and whatnot. And because he did that, after him, you know how when you go to supermarkets, you have the same brand in the aisle and one after another, but it's the same brand, like Spam, a whole aisle of just Spam. They didn't do that before him.
He played with
realized-
Spam too, right?
Huh?
He has a piece with Spam, right? Sorry, I didn't
Yeah. He played with something, but
Yeah.
that was his innovation, and then started marketing. The whole ideology of marketing, of putting, you know what I mean? Like, well, obviously he didn't start marketing, but the influences that he had on just understanding repetition, that created an entire genre of new thought, right? For example, I was really like troubled with why Picasso painted Cubism. I never liked Cubism.
Cubism?
Yeah, what's Cubism?
Yeah.
Cubism is like, you know, Picasso's paintings. It's very like,
like the
blocky,
swirly stuff.
swirl
Yeah.
kind of stuff. I never liked it. I just thought that was like a way to break down images. It's just abstract, right? Then when you get into it more, you realize he painted Cubism, specifically certain series that blew him up, was because he was going against the traditional way of painting. Traditional way of painting is that I will show you one angle of me, right? Perfect lighting, that it's an angel, you see the front, you see my abs and this and that. He decided, why don't we paint all three-dimensional in the two-plane? So you can see behind
I went to
person.
the Madrid Museum and I read about this, about
Yeah.
Picasso. Yeah.
Yeah. And then
Like
That's
explain
interesting.
that 2D but 3D what?
so he decided that, let's say I'm painting a person like this, right?
Yeah.
He decided to paint the person's back of the head, also the front of the head, also the side profile,
Right.
also his hand movement from here to here. He'll paint all of it.
But like on
He's
one-
almost
the
he's
same
playing
line.
with like
Yeah.
dimensions and
Yeah.
and
And he
yeah,
break
yeah.
down 3D dimensions and put it at 2D, and he gave you all of it at once.
Right.
So instead of giving you a simplified 3D where it looks like a person, he gave you
You
all the
talking about
information.
like that kind of stuff?
Yeah, like this shit. This is like one of, you can see like it's multiple, like the chest, the side face.
Jamie,
front
pull up the
face.
image of Picasso.
Right?
Just
For real.
pull up. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. We don't really have a. But yeah, like that's the thing with his thing. It's not specifically each piece. Like I didn't really look into each piece, but I started to understand that
That art could
There's a-
change the world.
there's a purpose to art.
Yeah.
You know, it's not just pretty.
Right.
Right? It changes thought. It changes the way that you do things. And this is why now when you look at, like, for example, the banana on the wall and somebody ate the banana. Like, so there's an artist who tapes things to the wall.
Oh,
Duct
I've
tapes.
seen that.
Yeah, and then
Yeah,
you
yeah.
see the duct tape of the banana to the wall and somebody
Sorry,
ate that.
I'm still kind of focused on this. Like is there like an objective through this, or is
Yes. So his objective is to
Picasso.
Yeah.
I guess. Is that Picasso?
It's Cubism. I don't think it's Picasso.
Okay.
I haven't seen that
But his objective at that time
But
was
that's Picasso, right? His style.
That looks
this
Picasso.
is
Yeah.
Picasso. That's during his blue period. But you can see he has a side face, a front profile, all in one face. Right? You see his lips in 3 different dimensions, and all on one face. Right? And
I think that's I don't know, man. That's, like like that. Like your one guy said, the performance artist. I don't know art, man.
yeah. No, but this is the thing. He's not doing it so that people will like it. In fact, he was very hated during that time. All great artists are hated during their time.
You're talking about the guy with the Chinese name.
No, Picasso.
Oh, Picasso. Okay.
The reason why he did it, which I understand now, is to basically say the old world. I don't want it to be the way that it is. I want to do something that has never been done before.
Right.
And then in that, I can change the world. Right.
Is this like in his autobiography? Is this like known information?
This is known information. Yeah. You can.
Are
read
you
about it.
like an art buff? Like, are you
No,
somebody
not
that
really.
took art theory and history?
I took art history and theory, and in fact, my mentor is very heavy on art history and theory. But I'm not really like I'm an art buff when it comes to like normal people, I guess. But when it
Right.
comes to like artists and stuff,
Right.
I'm not.
Do you follow a lot of artists? Do you follow a lot
Sometimes.
of like underground guys?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah. People
pop culture guys.
Yeah. But this is the thing. I'm no longer following people who are repeating things.
Right.
Like if you like.
Like, what's your thoughts on Banksy?
I love him.
Yeah.
I think he's
People
one of
don't know who he is yet. Still.
Yeah, which is great. I think he's a true artist.
Yeah.
Crazy thing. I don't know if you guys want to talk about politics, but recently I found out all my favorite pieces from Banksy are actually spray painted on the wall that separates between Gaza and Israel.
Every single one of his pieces.
Almost, no, not every single. All the ones I love. The girl with the balloon.
Interesting.
Going on,
Yeah.
The guy with the bouquet of flowers.
Yeah,
The terrorist with a bouquet of flowers. Now I get what he was trying to fucking say.
The whole time. Yeah.
It's like those are not terrorists. They're hitting you with rocks. They don't got guns. Like
Shit.
a
And yo,
real
that's been going on for
fucking
how long?
artist. That's been going on for how long? Since I was a kid, I saw those images.
That's
I didn't
crazy.
know. So it's like, to me, Banksy is a real motherfucker. Like, he's not trying to do it for fame.
That's what I like about him. 'Cause
Yeah.
he's more of like as far as from what I see, there's like deep meaning into it.
Yes.
Like modern meaning.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yo, so if I may,
For sure.
okay, so going back to LA, you met your mentor.
Yes.
Your mentor kind of opens your world to these other people that enrich your knowledge of art and even challenge your ego and how you've perceived art in your journey thus far. So you're at that point in LA now, and
Let's just bring this back a little bit.
oh my bad,
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
talking real loud, but
Yeah.
so
Keep the
from
energy
there,
up.
how does
Yeah.
that go? How does that eventuate into what you spoke about earlier, your downfall?
Yeah.
Yeah. I was
Yeah.
trying to do that.
Yeah,
but I
yeah,
didn't
yeah,
wanna
yeah. You
interrupt
don't
you.
want
Yeah, no, that's
yo,
I
it's cool.
want-
It's
yo,
cool.
You're just going
Yeah,
into
thank
it, and
you,
I'm
thank
just
you,
like,
thank you.
I'm like, yeah.
Yo, anytime. I got stories some days. I always love talking about this shit. I love actually talking about the downfalls way more than the other shit, because I think the downfalls was like the realest fucking moment. So what ended up happening is exactly during that time, I started to have people in Toronto leave. Like, we had a shop in Toronto. I started to have people in Toronto leave because poor management, right? Like, we didn't set up the business enough for me to actually leave. And I just dipped.
So at this time, you have Playhouse in Mississauga, Toronto.
I have Playhouse in Mississauga. I had Sutat in Toronto, and I had Skin Blue in New York.
And so those are the 3 shops.
Three
you have.
shops
This
that
is
I had.
COVID.
These
This
are
is
all
COVID.
shops you own.
I own, yeah.
And
at
do you
that time.
solely own these, or do you have partners?
I have partners.
Okay. Each
yeah.
location has different partners.
Yeah. The Toronto one is solely owned.
Right.
But I was gonna partner with the girl that I opened it with.
So Sutat you solely owned.
Yeah, at
still
that
have
time,
that?
no, I closed it. Everybody left, and we couldn't pay the rent, so we closed it. People in New York, I was partnered with, Marielle, at her place, and we spent basically all of my money into it, and it didn't work out.
Right. So you started that with Marielle.
Yeah, I started that with
Damn.
Marielle. So yeah, we were in business together, and It was great, man. I was in the whole family, and I loved it.
And you're still in contact with her?
Yes, yes. I am briefly, but I am. We had our differences, and last time we talked, it wasn't the nicest things. But this is the thing with people in business, like we always understand. We always understand. Like no, like we were just immature, you know. I was immature, like a lot. So, but in that process, I know we have family involved. Her mom was involved. My mom was involved. So like it's very, very difficult.
And then you have the Mississauga one.
And I have
And
Mississauga.
that's the one that you still have.
Yeah,
the other
that's
two
the one.
are
Yeah, closed down.
Yes.
So that one closed. Those two closed down.
Question: Did
Yeah.
you like with the capital that you were raising through tattooing, right?
Yeah.
So you were tatting people.
I was tatting
right?
people,
Which is
yeah.
a lot
Yeah.
of money, right?
Yeah, which
How
is
much,
a lot of money.
if you don't mind me asking, do you charge for tattoos?
So now I'm a lot cheaper because I want to pick the ones that I want to do.
Right.
But at that time, I was making anything between like 2K to like 5K a day.
Nice. Damn.
Yeah,
Yo,
yeah.
tattooing is
That's
fucking
crazy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I was making a lot of money. A lot
And
of
were
money.
you
would come
grinding,
through.
or was it like,
I
yo,
was
I'm gonna do this
grinding.
5K and I'm gonna chill for a week?
Wait, you're
I
you're
was-
not
I was
netting
grinding.
that though, right?
There's no overhead.
No, there's no
mean,
overhead. I was-
Specifically from
Well,
tattooing
as-
or from the businesses too?
From the businesses, yo, at one point, so business in 2019, we did $1 million in one shop, just in
Of
one
revenue.
shop, off revenue.
Yeah.
And we probably cleared about like 200K, which was pretty fucking good for fucking what I was. 26
And that's
at
your
that time.
salary as your that's the net income as an owner, and you're also making.
I
your
was also
income
making
as an
money
artist.
as an artist, but I obviously blew all the fucking money away.
On what? Like, what were you?
Fucking dude, money's so easy to blow, dude.
It is when you're making.
Like this one time, I made this money. I had cash.
Because you have a Porsche still, though.
I had a Porsche. Yeah, I still have a Porsche. But I remember we went to a fucking strip club because one of the artists really wanted to go to a strip club. I was so depressed that day, so lonely, and then this one girl just won't leave me the fuck alone. And I paid her the money I made that day to get the fuck out of my face. That was how ignorant I was. I think it was $1,500 that I just gave it to her. It was
to
like,
get out my face.
get out. Like it was just. But I was polite. I wasn't like, yo,
You
get the
had
fuck
that
out.
fuck you money.
Yeah, like in my head, you know, but then I don't. so like
anymore.
fucking few years later, I was paying for that shit. Like fucking couldn't afford food and
Shaking
shit. It
that
was
ass
like,
and then get the fuck out of here.
yeah, like it was. Oh man, it was a very ignorant time of mine. Very ignorant, and I spent a lot on the trips, you know, and I spent like 200, 300K. Like, you know, I wasn't saving a lot of money, so I spent all of that money and plus like loans and shit, and I took money out of my parents' house. Like, it was a clusterfuck, and I got it was a clusterfuck. I went from everybody looking up to me to
See, this is the reason why I would like this is the benefit of a structured kind of like interview process to
yeah, exactly. It's that was so I almost killed myself in that process.
Damn.
I remember I took out like all the drugs I could because like every night when I went to sleep, I keep imagining repeats of shooting my head shooting myself in the head
just
with
to
a gun.
put a stop to all the fucking stress of all
to-
the finances and the responsibility.
Exactly,
and the fucking,
exactly. There was a point where I burnt out all of my money. We had 3 shops. It wasn't functioning properly, so it wasn't pulling enough money.
So now we're talking
Down.
COVID.
Yeah. Past, you know, I was going back and forth trying to maintain all the shops. Obviously, it was a bad idea that I made all these moves, but I was like still hopeful in that time. There was a couple of months that I had $25,000 to $30,000 I had to pay by the end of the month, and I had like $5,000 in my bank account. Like, I had no money, and no money was coming in. I just literally tattooed 18 to 20 hours a day, every day, and I made that money, and I paid it, fucking crashed, and then I went back and did it again. It was like very much like, yo, you have to survive. There's no other way. You have to do it. So I did that. And then there's one night I remember, and this was also like during a time that I was really fucked up. So I said a lot of things I shouldn't have said. I had a very bad temper, and you know, it just, I was seeing myself doing things I never thought I would do. You know, I was in the situation. I was watching how I would react to these things, and I was like, "Yo, you're going crazy. You're actually going crazy."
This is when this
Yeah.
is your down.
This
Like
is
this is
was
the
my
fall.
downfall. This is during my downfall.
And this is 2020.
This is 2022.
2022.
Yeah, 2022. This was like a year after that whole thing. But I was still hopeful. I thought it wasn't a downfall, it was just a heart moment. And then my artists start leaving one by one. That hurt. And the way how they left, that hurt. Both on me failing them, on me never be able to get back up again. A lot of people that was jealous at me, now I see. Right before they were just very like happy and go getter, like they're always beside me. And then I start to see how people really was looking at me. No one respected me. Not no one, but a lot of people did not. There was no, it was like disrespect straight to my face, you know. No one thought I was a good artist anymore. They just all thought like, yo, we can step on his head. Like we can do shit way better than him. Who the fuck was him? And it was that whole side of me getting up there and people start getting jealous. And then when I start falling, so many people took the time to kick me when I was down. So many people. And it was the sheer amount of getting that. Like at first it's like, nah, it's okay.
What does it mean to kick you when you're down? Like, are they taking advantage? Are they
like, for
just
example, they would
talking
leave
shit?
they would leave the shop and then still come back and try to take more artists, right? Like they would talk all the shit behind my back, like all the shit possible, like, you know, how I'm a terrible person, how I would like even rumors of me sexually assaulting people. Like shit to a guy, that's fucked up, man. Like I would never do anything like that. I would, and it's not even doing anything. Like, at that time, I couldn't even escape that that type of negative rumors because I was so lonely that any girl that would pay me any attention, I would be like, oh wow, this is great. Like, you know, so I look like I would like that, but I didn't have no time to do any of that shit. And I would never do that kind of stuff. And that ruined me, right? Like, in my head at that time was like, am I actually those people that they talk about?
It starts to fuck with your
It starts
sanity.
to fuck with
Yeah.
your sanity. And that's also added to the whole pressure of wanting to kill myself. It was like, I thought the world would want me to leave. Because that was
Shit.
my environment. And then people that I was going down to LA with just started to treat me as this like transactional thing. But before that, I would pay for the fucking studios and I would do all these things, you know, because I was balling, you know. I had all these people, and just such a cliche to say is when people love you when you're down, you know, and when you're up, people start wanting to tear you down. And like when you lose all of that, you start to see how little amount of people are actually there for you. And this is why I have so much love for Ann and Tanya.
He was
like, my
there.
boy. They were there.
Shit.
They took it. They took all the fucking punches that I was getting, and they stood in front of, like, you know, metaphorically stood in front of me. It was like, no, you rest.
So metaphorically, but how were they doing that? Like literally.
Like managing the places, like taking conversations that I couldn't take, like sticking with me.
What was their incentive?
Just to help me out.
Just because you were boys?
Yeah,
Well,
they fucked with me,
like,
and they
well,
wanted to
also
invest
the
in me.
investing, right?
Yeah,
Like,
they
you
wanted
guys
to
partnered
invest
up.
in me.
Okay, so
Yeah.
they're like, and this is not to like add any sort of speculation or injury or insult to your guys' relationship, but like from a business mind, I'm just thinking like from a pure, you know, capitalistic mindset. It's like if I was Anna, and it's like, okay, I can buy low, sell high here.
For sure, but
Kinda,
this is the
yeah.
thing. Like,
Well, not even just
yeah.
that. It's like it's also like I would say it's being proactive instead of reactive. Do you know what I mean? He can sit there and feel sorry for you, but he's invested in it. It's
Exactly.
like, yo, I have shit to do.
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
whether or not like we either try or we don't.
Yeah.
And it's like if you could be reactive
Yeah.
or you could be proactive about
This is the thing, though. Like,
And you guys were boys, like
No. We met around the same
it.
time.
You guys met the same
Yeah,
time.
same time.
in
Yeah.
LA.
okay.
Yeah.
So it was like during that whole during COVID stuff. But this is the thing. Like, yes, it's an investment, but the amount of fucking pain that we went through, the amount of shit
We as
that
in?
me, Annan, Tanya,
Specifically with Playhouse?
Specifically with Playhouse, with even they helped me close down all the other locations.
Right.
You know, they helped me to get myself out of a lot of major debts that
Right.
I could have gotten in.
Were those all through loans too?
Not all, but
Right.
it was a lot of like contracts I signed,
Right.
leases I had.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Even
Did you have to buy out of those? Did you have to pay people out,
sometimes
sell
I
your
had.
shares, those
Yeah,
kinds of
sometimes
things?
I had, but no one would buy my shares.
Yeah.
It was not a built business, you know.
Right,
with
right,
with
right.
Enen's business, like it's built, like he can actually leave, have someone come in.
Right, right,
But
right.
for me, it wasn't built business, so no one wanted. And tattoo's super high risk,
Right.
so no one really wanted to come in. So it was like a lot of like sitting ducks, and no one was there, and they would spend the time. Tanya especially would get yelled at by my fucking employees.
Right.
And yelled at. I'm talking about like brutally fucking abused. Like,
Do you
like,
feel like that's like a tattoo thing? Because as far as I like, for all the people that I get tattooed by, they're very like, my coach said this to me today. Actually, he's like, there's he's like, you're so extreme. He's like, you never have fun with it. Like you're either trying to beat a 5K, or you're trying to knock somebody out in the ring.
Yeah.
Those kinds of things.
Yeah.
Like that's how I feel with tattoo artists who have tattooed me.
There's no half-assing as an artist, right?
I guess so.
well,
Yeah.
no, I mean, okay.
What I meant to say is
I have
that
so
like they're
much-
very
yeah.
passionate and like they're very obscure people. Like
Also
the
very
tattoo artists that-
emotional, you know, but passionate in the wrong ways. Like, I'm not talking about all tattoo artists, but there's a tattoo culture that I really don't like, is how egotistic people get and how self-centered people get. And this is not all tattoo artists. I've met some of the greatest fucking people who are tattoo artists, but I'm saying, like, I feel like when you make that much money and getting praised every day, you can kind of lose your ways, you know?
Right.
And the way how they treated Tanya during that time, I can't fuck with that at all. And then I think at a certain point, after Tanya's been eating enough shit, and I don't want to say specifics because I don't want to incriminate anybody, right? Like, but I can take a lot of shit. Tanya can take a lot of shit, but that got to her max. And when I saw her cry, I fucking went and just fired motherfuckers. I was so pissed. I was like, okay, this is business. I know you guys are trying to make money. You guys think that, you know, the business doesn't need you guys, but there's a line where when you start to disrespect people, especially girls, like females, who has never done anything, and you guys know Tanya, sweet, always on your side. To someone like that, I just don't fuck with. I can't work with them. So I went in, I fired everybody, and this is after all of these rumors, all the debt, at the same time, people trying to poke at me and trying to just basically make me feel worse and worse. Like things, little kind of things, right? Where I'm like, oh yeah, I'm trying to be a billionaire and this and that. And then people just like, yeah, you're never fucking gonna do it. Like straight to my face, right? Like and these are the people that I've helped out, I've trained, I've fucking given the business to, I've given them my clients, I've like built them up. Just like completely kind of going around my back and start making rumors, saying like just lying about how I mistreated them, how I'm taking advantage of them, and they just want more money. And then they just use that. And then they're like, oh, but I heard so-and-so said this about you, so you must be a bad guy. And since you're a bad guy, why don't you pay me more? It's like, what kind of fucking logic is that? Like, you're not even actually, like, if you want more money, you sit down and actually have a business talk with me, not like go around and fucking do all this fucking bitch shit. Right?
Yeah, I know what you mean, man.
Yeah.
Like, I think like I've experienced what it means to be on the self-contractor side, because like a tattoo artist, look, when it comes to being a barber, when it comes to being a tattoo artist, you realize real quick, like, I'm trading you for my service, and your money could come right into my pocket. Like, that's why I got into barbering. One of the things I think I was high on coke at the time, and I was thinking about what I need to do next. And when I was thinking about barbering, all of the signs were leading to barbering. I was like in my room, just like, man, like, you know, like the Illuminati board, like this goes here, this goes here, this goes here. One of the realizations was that I need something where I can just do something and then put money in my pocket. And it was barbering. Service
Yes.
industry, right?
Yes.
And when you do that, it's very, like, you have a very quick realization of, like, I just made $1,000 today. Like, Where's that $1,000? And you only see it as that, right? You don't see it as somebody being like, okay, you started from nothing. Now you have something. And also the lights for the business still need to be on. Do you know what I mean? And it's only until you become the business owner where you're like, oh,
like
there's
a
bills
structure,
to pay, there's structure,
there's an infrastructure.
Also,
that
there's
actually
my investment. Where's my return on investment?
Yeah,
I
exactly.
took all the risk.
Yeah,
you know? But they don't see that shit.
They don't see that. The fact that someone can sit in that barber chair, there has to be a chair. There has to be a fucking booking system. There has to be like actual.
Exactly.
Like there's
in their mind, they're just like, look at this guy making all this money.
Yeah.
And it's like, and here I am fucking paying him like whatever. But it's like, it's like, okay, go do it.
Go do it. Go do it.
Yeah.
Every single person I know that has went to open their own business after like being just an employee in the service industry have came back and been humbled.
Well, because that's 95% of business owners in the first year. Like after, I think 5 years. What's the stat?
Like 80%. I think 80% fails to even get started. And then on like out of that, I think 80% survives till like the first year, and then out of that, 80%.
Yeah, I mean, I can't speak from experience because unlike you guys, I'm not a business owner. You know, I've been an employee my entire adult life. However, I have a lot of opinions and a lot of observations in terms of entrepreneurship, leadership, etc. And I feel like leadership as a role, and I've occupied leadership positions, not in the entrepreneurial context, but in different contexts. But leadership is a very lonely journey. Very lonely journey.
Very. One of the hardest things.
Not just leadership, but like entrepreneurship when you're trying to make sacrifices. Because you could be a leader, like you could be a leader,
like on a basketball team.
Actually, no, it could be very lonely.
It's reminiscent of like being a man. It's like you don't get your recognition. You just you're expected to do the work, but you don't get the recognition for doing that.
And one of the hardest things that I had to face.
That's the statistic, by the way. It goes 20% of new businesses fail within the first year, 50% fail within the first 5. And 65% fail within 10 years.
Yeah.
Like it's hard. That's a flip of the coin.
Yeah, it's hard. It's most likely you're not gonna succeed.
And some industries are worse than others. Like restaurants.
Restaurants are way better.
That was the first one that popped up.
Yeah, like wait, what were we talking about? I'm perma-fried right now.
No, like honestly,
talk about failure of business. That came on so quick.
Yeah.
We were talking about like your lowest point, right? And the challenges that you were experiencing from everyone around you, and like Annan and Tanya coming in as a lever of
Let me hit that.
Of support to kind of get you out of there. So is that what kind of facilitated you from getting around and turning around, from having that turning point from your rock bottom to the...
Yeah, definitely. I think what facilitated was love.
From
them.
Right.
From them, from my mentor, from Tanya, from Enan, from my mom, from the new people that we have at Playhouse, the ones that actually stuck through that whole process, saw how messy it was, and they're still here. They love me. I love them. We're families. And what I ended up realizing is that nothing matters because I except for love. Like nothing matters because I was at literally the
You can almost
lowest.
argue that nothing matters at all. We're all gonna die in
love matters. Yeah, I fuck with that.
Yeah. I mean, I do think love matters, but like fundamentally, when you think about it, you realize that our constant state is love. It's the thoughts that makes us hate. It's the everything else that we do that makes us not want to. For example, like if I do nothing and you're just talking to me, if I do nothing, I'm actually just listening to you, and listening is a form of love. You actually can't not love. You're only able to love, and then when you love too much, sometimes that shit turns into hate.
I always say that like hate is not the opposite of love.
Yeah.
In fact, hate and love they're two sides of the same coin.
Yeah.
But the opposite of love is what we spoke about earlier, is indifference. Yeah.
Yeah, I believe so. I believe so. And that was there was a moment when I realized that like I didn't need all the money and fame or any of that to actually enjoy my life, because I was enjoying my life. There's a period of time that I had no money for food. I think it was negative $300 in my bank account. The government was coming at me.
This is COVID times?
This is like very recent, like
2022?
2023, I think.
Shit.
This is like we're moving 1 year at a time. 2023, there was a period of time where I had literally no money.
Isn't that crazy too? Because everybody thinks like, oh, business owner, he's living it up. Da,
Yeah,
da, da,
yeah.
da, blah,
You know,
blah,
Oh,
blah,
he's
blah.
driving a
that time-
Porsche.
Yeah.
Yo, during that time, people thought I was still lit. You know, I was like, yo, like, people are so delusional. It's not even delusional.
They're
People are
just
so-
ignorant. They're ignorant.
Yeah,
They're
like
ignorant.
it's
That's all
not,
it is.
it's not
Yeah.
even
Like-
their fault. It's that we are so separated.
Right.
We are all so delusional because what we see is no longer the actual reality.
There's a quote by who was it? Chris Williamson that said he's like, don't believe everything you hear, believe half of what you see.
Yeah,
That one?
I
I
fuck
forget
with
how
that.
it goes.
I fuck with that. Yeah, it's so true.
I'm curious to hear that full quote. But anyway. So,
Yeah, it's fucking sick. I know that quote and I live by it, man. Cause it's like the first day I opened Playhouse, this is like 8 years ago. We had $300 in the bank. We had no more money. We need to pay like I think $3,000 in like 2 weeks for rent. We're stressing, you know. But then this one old this girl that I was kind of interested in from way back, and we never really done anything, you know. And then she came by the shop, and she saw the shop. She was like, "Oh shit, like you're doing something with
The
your life,"
halo
you know.
effect.
It was like, yeah, it was the halo effect. And I remember seeing the way how she was reacting to me. And that night, I was like, "Yo, everybody's deluded."
Alan
They-
Watts, I
yeah.
love his video. I actually
love
have it on
Alan
my
Watts.
phone. I'm gonna try to pull it up.
Yeah,
actually.
yeah, I
Continue
love
what you're
Alan
saying.
Watts. Yeah, dude, and that's, you know, after I realized that, and
It's all smoke and mirrors.
it's all smoking.
I'm gonna show you because I loved it so much that I
Yeah.
recorded it.
Like some of the hottest people I've met. I'm talking about girls, not even guys, right? Girls, hottest girls I've met, famous, just depressed and lonely. Right? Like some of the richest people I've met, just miserable. Like, and this is not to go against the idea that money is not important, because I actually have a whole ideology on that. But it's to show that there are real things in life that's more real than fame, money, ego, being better than somebody. Like there's something way more fundamental than that. And when you get like literally torn to pieces where you don't want to live anymore, the real shit comes out. Like what's that guy? He was saying this one quote. He was saying, he's like, you know, like no one really think about poetry, you know, when everything's normal. But the minute like someone you love dies, right, it becomes necessary, right? So that's
It's a survival.
it's a survival
that's-
thing. It
yeah, yeah,
comes
yeah,
out
yeah.
of you. You have to express. You
Oh,
have to understand.
trust.
Can it hurt this much? Does somebody else feel this? Can I even survive this? Because it hurts this much for this long. How do I even see tomorrow? How do I even breathe? Like that feeling of just like, yo, why am I even here?
It's like Dead Poets Society, right?
Yeah.
What's that Robin Williams quote?
Yeah.
We're throwing a lot of quotes now,
Yeah,
but
yeah,
you know, it's
yeah,
like
yeah. I love
you
it.
could be
I
a
love it.
fireman, you could be a doctor, and all these things make the world turn and make the world work. But poetry is what makes life worth living.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So that's
Yeah.
the idea of like my journey of finding that realness, that I had to be at a point where I had nothing and then realize I have everything. That was insane to me.
Interesting.
That was insane to me. That experience.
It's a mindset of gratitude.
Yeah, yeah.
Yes,
That's where my
It's
mind
very
was
hard
going
to be grateful when you're down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very, very, very difficult.
Yeah.
But then there was that moment of flip, where I realized that all these things that everybody else cared about, I no longer care about it. I'm free now. Like I was in debt.
Wait, because of this
Because-
diluted, like this ex whatever, not even ex, but just
Yeah.
this fling or whatever came in, and then you.
No. That was just an example. That was
Yeah,
just an
no,
example.
but like
Yeah.
an example
Yeah,
of your
yeah.
realization,
Right.
like this is all smoke and mirrors. Like it's not real, so you're trying to discover what is real.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And,
Yeah.
and in the moment when it wasn't even me trying to discover what was real. I had to, because otherwise I would have killed myself. It was such a necessity for me to realize how I can wake up.
How did you get to that realization?
Oh,
I want to know.
this
'Cause
is
I've
actually
been
one
through
of my-
something
yeah.
similar.
Yeah, yeah,
Because
yeah.
I want to know how you got to that. Yeah.
Oh my God, I was actually talking to my friend today. This saved my life.
Sorry, the realization of
Of how can I wake up the next day?
Yeah,
How do
yeah,
I
yeah.
actually wake up the next day?
Yo, that's,
what were you saying? The realization that nothing matters.
Like just
That
the
turning
realize the
point.
turning point.
Yeah.
Like, how do I get from wanting
like
to
I want to
die-
pull this trigger
Yeah.
to like let's put the gun down because something's beautiful here.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yo, that was a huge moment. So what I realized, this is a previous example, like something happened a long time ago, but during that moment it kind of came back. I had a mushroom trip a long time ago where, okay.
Spoken like a true Joe Rogan podcast.
Facts. So this is the thing that most people, when you look at death, especially me at that time, I was only looking at it from a third person perspective. Even when I was viewing my own death, I was looking at myself dying, which you never do. When I had the mushroom trip, I thought I was dead, So I had a first person experience of what death actually would have felt like if I was conscious enough to know that I was dying. What that felt like was everything else dies. When you die, it's not that you physically died and you're like someone else standing there watching yourself die. It's not that. It's that you're going someplace that nobody you've ever known can go with you. So you have to say goodbye to every single thing, everything you love, every single person that you love, every sandwich you fucking ate, every fucking little tiniest detail, you have to say goodbye to that. And when I was pulling that trigger, and the next day I didn't, because I went to talk to my friends because I couldn't leave them without saying goodbye. And obviously, I went to my friends, they just fucking locked me in their house, right? They're like, you're not doing shit, Good friends,
Yo,
right?
blessings, yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But after that month of healing, of realizing, what a very strong point came to me. It was like, yo, you know death is the hardest thing because you have to say goodbye to everything. You have to cut ties with everything, right? You have to break up with everyone. If you're willing to do that already, why not live? Why not do that hard thing you didn't want to do? Because death is so much fucking harder. And guess what? You're going to die anyways. Why the fuck die now? The movie haven't fucking ended. You're going to die at a point when the movie is the shit.
It's almost like when you're at that point where you got nothing to lose.
I like that one.
You know what I mean? Like, you're gonna cut the movie short when it's just bad, and now now your whole fucking movie is bad.
Yeah.
You can't.
And like what I was gonna say, it's like once you have that nothing to lose, like you're ready to give it all up, it becomes your superpower.
It becomes your superpower. I was free.
Yeah.
I realized if I was gonna leave everything behind, why not then be a fucking asshole? Why not then have someone misunderstand me? I have no control over that anyways. I have to say goodbye to that anyways. I have to be okay with that anyways. So why not then just be okay now? And if I don't want to live that long, like watching a movie, I don't want to watch the full thing. Let me skip to the best part. Like, that's it. Just let me watch only the best part. So then I went into this mentality of like, oh, what do I actually want to do then? And then I realized I wanted to kill myself because I didn't know what the fuck I wanted to do. There was no goal. There was nothing for me to look forward to, right? And then
Not because of like all the pressures. And
it
like,
was all the pressures and whatnot. I was trying to escape to that pressure. But if I wasn't gonna kill myself anyways, why not stop tatting? Why not close down the businesses? Why not?
Why didn't you though?
Yeah, because.
Why? Well, like at that time.
Because
you did now. But
yeah,
I'm saying,
exactly. Because I was scared. I was in my ego. I didn't want to fucking lose. I didn't know what to do. I'd never even thought about that was even a possibility. It was like when you get to that bottom line and you realize you never needed to be at that bottom line. You know, it's kind of like you fighting with your girl and then realizing like, yo, why do we even break up for like that little thing, right? You start to realize how stupid that was. And then this whole world came to me where I just felt like one of the biggest reason why I wanted to kill myself was because I couldn't let my ego die. I couldn't let the idea.
Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, no, please.
I was gonna say like would you even say that like a lot of it was because you couldn't handle it? Because if you could handle it, like why would escape be?
Yeah, this is the thing. Like, I think as entrepreneurs, especially we want to do something big, you're always gonna get to a point you can't handle.
Right.
There's always a point because you want to do something big, right? So you want to get to your maximum. But the thing that tripped me over, it wasn't that I couldn't handle it. Because if I couldn't handle it, drop the ball, right? Just drop it for a little bit. Go back, rest, come back. Then handle it more, right? There's never a point where you need to just pull the trigger and destroy everything.
Instead, it's the
Yeah.
ego. It's this
It's the
perception of
ego.
self.
It's
Yeah.
the perception that I thought I'm supposed to be successful.
Yeah.
I'm only loved because I was successful. You know, and guess what? That was the moment when I saw that I was still loved.
Right.
You know, and it was like such a big change. It was like I realized like, yo, all that shit meant nothing. I just couldn't let myself sleep on the floor. My bed was so fancy. I didn't want people to see that I was sleeping on my fucking mattress on the floor. But in a metaphorical sense, right?
Right.
But when I was forced to only sleep on the floor, I realized I will never fall out of bed again. Right? So there was a moment when I realized that love is something you can actually stand on, whereas fame and money you can't. It's very fickle. It breaks. It's like water. Like finances is very much like
Yo,
water.
you're saying this, and I can only see the tat right there.
Yeah, lead with love,
with
right?
love, yo.
That was so. My mom did this tattoo for
Oh,
me,
shit. That's crazy.
and that was that moment of me realizing that no matter how bad, and I got this from Ray, singer. I was tattooing her in LA. And it was during my high
Savannah?
times. No, not Savannah Ray.
Charles?
Ray, Raye. She was there's a song she like recently blew up with, but
Yeah.
but yeah, I was tattooing her and she was like she was going through a lot of things at that time. And I was asking her, I'm like, how did you, because I knew the level of stress she was taking as well, and I was taking that too. So I was like, how do you handle that? Because she was handling way more, right? And she told me, she's like, yo, always lead with love. No matter how mad you are, no matter how much you hate them, it's for you. Always lead with love. And then after that whole experience of me getting fucked over, people taking my money, my own people kind of turning on me, start going to different shops, start trying to poach my people to different shops, start talking fucking mad trash about me. Like I cared about my reputation, you know, I cared about whether or not people, you know, how people thought about me and shit.
Of course.
You know, like a regular human being, like we care, especially nowadays with Instagram. Like that fall made me realize like nothing is over until it's over, and as long as you have love, you can keep going, and as long as you keep going, someday you'll win. Like,
Oh yeah.
as long as you keep going, and
The only sure way to fail is to quit.
is to quit. Yeah, and I believe, not just believe, in physics, there is a known, I don't know if it's a law, but it's a truth.
Okay.
Is that with enough time, anything that's probable will become possible, and
Murphy's
anything
law.
that's possible
It's
will
Murphy's
become
law.
inevitable.
Yeah.
So it is Murphy's law. So it is a law in physics, right? So to me, effort is like a time accelerator. We don't have a lot of time on Earth, but if you can keep accelerating your time through effort of doing more stuff in short amount of times and keep putting stuff out, what's possible will become inevitable. So if it's possible for you to make it, you will make it. And a lot of people are saying like, oh, maybe you're not, maybe. Dude, I've never met a single person that didn't quit and didn't make it. Like, of course, we have to define what making it is. It might be that they want to be a megastar, but now they own like a ton of fucking CD stores, right? Maybe in that sense, they might have felt like they failed, but they didn't. Like you live a life. Like there's no.
That's all perspective.
It's
man,
all
of
perspective.
What failure is and
Exactly.
what success is. At the end of the success is the achievement of an aim or purpose. That's the actual definition.
Yes.
Webster's definition.
And it's I think it's coming to terms with acceptance.
Yeah.
Because I think it's like going back to how you define what making it is.
Yeah.
It's like our whole lives is an act of understanding when to let go. And the moment you let go, that's a liberating experience where
So true.
you know what I'm saying? It's like I've made it now because I've let go of all there was that I've wanted. More.
So there's a book by David Hawkins called Letting Go, and that was probably one of the biggest the biggest influential books for me during a hardship that I went through a breakup. A breakup that really shattered my identity, shattered my ego, really challenged
Ego
who I
death.
thought I was,
Yeah.
right? And letting go was about perspective. It's about that's Power versus Force, which is another book by David Hawkins, and he talks about the scale of consciousness and like how there's the lower states of consciousness, which is the ego state, and this is like grief being one of so death. And then there's shame and guilt and apathy, not feeling good enough, being like, I'm not good enough, I'm worthless. Then there's like jealousy, desire, and anger, and all these things, right? And then it goes into neutrality, neutral states. So the neutral states of consciousness, like once you escape the ego, is like acceptance, right? Neutrality,
That's the peace,
willingness,
right?
right?
Peace is very high.
higher.
Yeah.
Peace
Very
is
high.
like, then it goes
higher.
peace, then it goes joy, then it goes love,
Love, yeah.
right? And then it goes enlightenment. Right, enlightenment is when
That
you're
makes
no
a lot
longer.
of sense.
Yeah.
That
It's
makes
like
a lot
of
the
sense.
levels of
And
frequencies of consciousness.
One of the biggest things for me that helped me was realizing that everybody experiences this. So like this is what made me like realize the world is my mirror for one. I see the world as my mirror so many times, you know, like if someone is being unreasonable in the shop or whatever, or whatever, like even my girl today, we were talking on the phone and she was having differences with me, right? And I was able to literally take her situation and her pain with me and take that same exact reflection of the pain that I was having with somebody else. And I was just like, damn, that's how you feel. But then I realized the whole 1,000 perspectives thing, which is an Alan Watts. So David Hawkins is also like a conscious psychologist, like David Hawkins, right? He's like in the realm of psychology, but also in the realm of consciousness.
Yes.
Do you know what I mean?
Like Ram Dass, Alan Watts.
Watts, yeah.
You know,
So
Alfred, whatever. Yeah.
when I realized that other people feel the same way and the reasons why they feel the same, like all of your tattoo artists that left or whatever, right? They were all operating in the same states of consciousness.
Yes.
You know, the states of that one turned off.
The DS.
Yeah,
right?
the DJI.
DJI.
We still have 30 minutes on this
Yeah,
one,
yeah,
and the
we're good.
battery.
Fuck. I don't
We're
want
at
you to
100%.
Stop your thought there. I was engaged.
Yeah. But no, like I just realized, like we're all the same.
We're all the same.
We're all fucking the same. Like we're just operating in different states of consciousness.
Yeah.
That's it.
Like, yo,
Yeah,
back to the topic of
absolutely,
love. Like, love
absolutely.
is that force where we tap into it, but we're all tapping into the same thing, and
Yeah.
it's this omnipresent thing that
Yeah.
that connects all of us.
Yeah, that's God.
That's God. That's what I
God.
said the last
Yeah,
podcast.
that's why religion is so bullshit, because religion's a faster way to get you closer to God, but it will be the only way to stop you to actually be with God. It gets you understand what it's supposed to be, but in the wrong ways. And you never
Oh yeah, no, it's somebody
Yeah.
else's perspective of what God should be, where
Exactly.
spirituality is your own perspective of what God should be.
Exactly,
Right.
exactly. And that's when you really connect, right? Like, one of the thought that I had was like, why are we teaching to worship Jesus instead of becoming? Right? Like, what is...
I don't even think that. Well, maybe Jesus was to say to worship God, right? But like, what does worshiping God mean, really?
Yeah.
What does that even mean?
What does
Worship
that even-
God.
So I...
Like
so-
bow to him and surrender to him?
Yeah.
Or
Give him
does
everything
worshiping
from
God
child
mean
sacrifices, like,
Yeah.
you know?
or does
Crazy.
like
Yeah.
or does like to worship God mean to just do your best through love.
Yeah.
know
So
what I mean?
I have my obviously I could be wrong. During this whole process of like downfall and like not really being able to make it and whatnot, there was a moment that I kneeled down and I faced basically like the sky, and I said, "Yo, you win. You win. You're so much bigger than me. Like I surrender.
Yeah.
I surrender. Whatever you want to give me, I will accept because I have no choice. And
Acceptance is a neutral
a neutral, yeah,
scale of consciousness.
yeah,
No, but
and
at that point, you were God fearing. It's like
yeah, yeah,
surrender to him.
surrender to him, and it was after that
Yeah.
that I started to have
Fear
peace.
is at the top portion of the ego. So it's
Yeah.
like it's not the lowest, but fear is like at that higher,
Yeah,
right? And then as you go into acceptance,
yeah.
right, and surrender is when you get out of the ego state of
That
consciousness.
makes so much sense. That's crazy because that's exactly what happened. It was that.
You follow those steps.
Yeah. It's
Because you're leaving your ego behind. You're like, fuck, like, I'm wrong.
I'm wrong. I'm sorry. Like,
here, this,
and
I
it's
accept.
and it's not even like whether or not I was right or wrong. It's that fear of hurt. It was my fear of getting hurt or losing or like just going through
And you
breakup.
let all that go.
I let all that go in the sense of like,
fuck
yo,
it, hurt me, who cares?
if you're gonna hurt me, and that's my life, thank you for giving me that.
Right.
Because I don't know anything else. Right.
Right.
This is the greatest thing ever happened to me.
Right.
And when I had that, that's when I started to get that level of serenity and just like, and I was grounded because of it, and then that's when I started to receive gifts. I don't know if you guys like ever had the experiences where you literally got gifted by God, like that random fucking phone call that's just like, oh, by the way, we have a great business opportunity. We would love for you to join. You go there. All people like you. They love you. You love them. They went through the same shit you did. But it's like, how did they find me? How did they find me at that moment when I surrendered? Those are the experiences I started to get afterwards. I started to see the cycles too. And whenever I surrender, sometimes I'll be fighting. I'm like, oh man, she doesn't like me. Or like, oh man, this doesn't happen. I want it to happen this way. And then I surrender to all of these things. And all of a sudden something way better happens for me. Like unbelievably better happens for me. So slowly I started to believe in God, not in the sense of like a religion or Jesus or a man in the sky or anything. I started to believe in this higher power
Who's got your back?
who's got my back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
See, I don't.
It's hard to.
I'll tell you
it's-
why. I'll tell you why.
I fuck with what he's saying because I feel like I've experienced something like that.
It's hard
Right.
to explain
Okay, so,
whether or
but-
not that is something else or is it just my brain kind of making
You know
extra
what it is?
connections.
You know what it is? I think it's
Okay.
us as a human species.
Yeah.
We are diseased. We are like, we can't help ourselves but to force some sort of meaning in our lives.
Yeah.
Some sort of like,
Yeah.
why do we exist?
yeah,
And because
yeah.
that like disease is in our brains and it
Got-
defines
yeah.
everything we do and say, that meaning boils down to something where it promotes the idea of it's bigger than ourselves.
Yeah.
And we need
have to
to
let
find
go.
our purpose.
Yo, I have-
Yeah.
Okay, but like what? Like, here's my here's like
Yeah.
an atheist perspective.
yes, yes.
I'm not claiming I'm an atheist. I
Yeah,
don't like to be put in
But
boxes,
you're
whatever.
being the devil's advocate right now.
Not even
yeah.
just the devil's advocate. Like this is a perspective of
Yeah.
that's that recall, right? That you were talking about, watching videos about atheist perspectives and their argument about what God is and what God isn't and all this stuff. It's like what gives you the impression that you were gifted? Like one of the atheists says like Christianity and religion in general, or just like these religious spiritual people tend to think that like they develop these narcissistic views of like, wow, I'm gifted. I'm so like, like, you mean to tell me that God gives so much shit about you, but I don't even know how much. I think it's like 1.5 million children a year under the age of 5 that died of famine and disease and malnutrition. Like, what about them?
Yeah. So this
You know what I mean?
This is my perspective to it. I don't think it's narcissistic to think that, because I don't think I'm more gifted than somebody else.
Right.
Right? It's not a comparison to other people.
But like you don't. But like, let me play devil's
Yeah.
advocate. You don't think that you're more gifted than, say, for example, some kid in India who's just like, or the kids in Palestine?
I don't.
Do you know what I mean?
I think they're more gifted than me.
Really?
Yeah, they're gifted a perspective I will never be able to see. They're gifted. This sounds fucked up.
Yeah.
They're gifted the hardest pain anybody can feel.
But how is that a gift?
Yo,
Yeah.
like I've come to like my philosophy is our wealth is a direct function of our experiences. So the crazier your experience and being able to overcome your experiences, the wealthier you are.
Yeah.
And-
So I
and that-
believe there's always polar opposites simultaneously
Yeah.
exist in one thing. So if, like, obviously me saying this, I believe what you're saying as well. I
Right.
was raised by atheist
You're just open-minded.
parents.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm very open-minded.
Yeah.
But the way how I'm taking to it is that when you look at a kid in Palestine, which in no fucking shape or form, I feel like they live a better life than me, right? I believe.
I
yeah.
would disagree. I would just flat out say that, like, for me to be able to have this podcast right now without like bombs being
Yeah.
like, you know what I mean? I'm 100% so lucky
Yeah.
and grateful. And
Yeah.
like guys like Cristiano Ronaldo will say the same. It's like, oh man, how did you deal with the suffering of when you missed that penalty shot? And he's like, suffering.
Yeah.
I know suffer. Like, what do you mean suffer? Like,
Yeah.
war, children in war, and people dying. And it's like, those
That's
are suffering.
suffering.
I play
Yeah.
soccer. I make $1 billion a year.
Exactly.
That's- You know what I mean?
So that's like the way how I'm looking at. That's exactly what I'm saying. I'm not saying that I'm less gifted than them, right? Because I really appreciate the fact that I never needed to experience that in my life, and which actually made me way more grateful. But the polar opposite of that contrast is that the people there, the kids that are dying, that are helping other kids, their parents are fucking gone, they're in the hospital helping cleaning up bags of fucking, they have more meaning in their life than I've ever even imagined. And they had to they're forced to sacrifice almost everything I've ever experienced for them to have that experience of their own. And I'm at a point to, and I'm only saying this because I'm at a point to see that my suffering as gifts as well. It's almost like I have no complaints. If one day I met a girl, I love her so fucking much, and I walked in on her and she's getting fucking pounded by like 3 black dudes, right? Like, I'm
Why black dudes? Why not fucking
intimidating
Asians?
fucking this big fucking dicks, right? Like, I'm just saying in a sense of like the most like visually like
Yeah,
like
okay.
extreme,
But
like
you
you think
see
about
that
that's
as a
like a
gift
porn,
as
like
because you get to have like some kind of lesson out of that.
not even. It's that I would literally see that as a gift to me.
That's very cuckish.
Yeah, right.
Right, I get what he's saying
Yeah.
though.
Yeah.
I get what he's saying because
It's a terrible example.
Great. This is a gift.
but let me try to save you, bro. Let me try to save you. I also believe that like the closer you, it's like a Drake bar.
Yeah.
I'm dying to feel alive. Like the closer you are to death, and everything that's like miserable, the closer you are to the exact opposite of that.
Yes.
Because it's
Or-
like it's the
or-
same thing that
yeah.
we were saying, how like love and hate are two sides of the same coin. The more hate you feel is because you fucking deeply love something that's not
Yes.
quite there.
That's what I mean.
And
that's what
that's
I
what
mean.
you- that's what you're
Yes,
saying, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. So in that situation of me seeing a bunch of fucking guys gangbanging my love of my life, right? When I remember I told Enan this, and he was just like, "Oh, you're fucking nuts." But it's a very heavy, complex thing to explain. But I don't want to hurt myself because somebody else made that decision. That's A. Second is that I can't control that. That's my life. That's destiny. If that were to happen, I don't like it. I will hurt. I will cry. I will do whatever. But that's a gift. That's a gift in the sense that I actually had the experience to experience that. Like Alan Watts, you love Alan Watts, and he was saying this, and
That's gratitude in its purest.
yeah. Like the Alan Watts, he said something I fucking it resonate with me so much. He's like, if every night you can dream any dream, in your dream you can do anything you want, and let's say each night that dream spends out to 75 years worth of a dream, and you get to do whatever the fuck you want in that dream, right? You'll probably try everything you've never tried. Second night you come back, live a whole lifetime, a whole different experience. But a week later, a month later, 30 lifetimes later, you're going to start getting bored. And you're going to want to introduce a little bit of unknown, right? A little bit. Just something that will go a little bit wrong, right? Just a little bit of taste. And then you'll want a little bit more, and a little bit more adventure, a little bit something you can't control. And at one point, if you dream long enough, you'll dream the exact life you live now. I believe we...
Yo, I'll cheers to that. That hit me
cheers,
like a
cheers.
fucking
Thank you.
train. I don't know about you, man. Yo, you want some more of this? You're good?
good.
Yo, that hit me like a train, bro. Fuck.
It's kind of like, well, like one of the stories of the fisherman. I've said this to you like how many times now? It's the story of the fisherman where he's fishing on a dock and he's playing guitar, and some businessman comes up to him, right? And he's like, "Hey man, like he sees him catch a fish and he's going home. And he's like, "Hey, that's it? Like one fish and that's it?" And he's like, "Yeah, like what more could I want?" And he's like, "Hey, if you catch like 10 more, you could sell these at this market here and make a fortune." And he's like, "And then what?" And he's like, "Well," he's like, "you keep doing that for like so much time, and then you could eventually buy your own boat and hire a squad to fish for you."
Yeah.
He's like, "And then what? Then you make so much more money."
Yeah.
He's like, "Then what? Then you buy more ships and then hire more crew, and next thing you know, and then eventually you could be on the public stock market and you own a fishery, right?" And he's just like, "And then what?" Because at the beginning of the story, he was going home to his family to go feed his family. He's like, then when you're finally like you could retire, sit back, you could just fish and enjoy, play guitar, and go back to your family.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's
yeah, and he's like, I'm doing that right now.
like a lot of the times, like I do ask myself, and this is because it's funny because like with my girl, like she wants the things that I don't spend time from and I run away from because I want to create this life so I can get more time. But it's more so like to sacrifice my 20s to do it in my 30s to enjoy it in my 40s. I'm thinking a little bit long term. But in reality, it's like so that I can do the things that I love with the people that I love the most.
Yeah.
Like why can't I do that right now?
Why can't I do that right now? That's the
Right.
exact same concept. It came to me that if I'm willing to die right now, then why can't I just live? Right? If I'm willing to end it all, then why can't I just end some parts and live out the best parts, right? It's like that idea of just like, yo, if I'm already doing cool shit and I'm enjoying life, why do I need all the extra shit? But at the same time, with saying that, I still want to be a billionaire. I still want to experience.
Why do you want to be a billionaire?
Because I want to experience. I want to experience a life where I get to create. I get to, but at what cost?
Right.
Right. So now I know the cost I'm not willing to put. I'm not willing to give my whole life in a cubicle and just be a billionaire at the end of my life.
Right.
I want to be a billionaire because it's a fun ride, right, to there. And if I can't make it, fuck it. I just want to see what that's like. And when I have it, once I get bored, you'll know, I'll leave. I don't need to have that. But the outlook on life now is very different. I still want to go and make a fuck ton of money because I want to spend a fuck ton of money, right? But that's just an aspect of life now. It no longer rules my output.
Like you're not attached.
I'm not attached to it. If it doesn't happen, it doesn't happen. If I die today, I'm happy because I've lived, right? When I look back on my life, I spent so much time laughing with my mom, right? I've spent so much time telling Tanya how great she is and sharing that. I've spent so much time hearing her telling me that. I've spent so much time with my ex that no longer is here anymore, but I've spent so much time with her in love. Like like, yo, bro.
She's not here. Like she's not here.
No. She's just not in my life anymore. Not here.
She's
like,
not in the room.
Yeah, she's not in the room.
She's outside.
She's not
in the
here
hallway.
in my life anymore. She's still on Instagram, but I only stalk her sometimes.
Still all the apps. I hear you.
I miss her. Anyways.
Yo, anyway, bro,
call
like,
her.
I think we're running close to the end.
We have 18 minutes.
We have 18 minutes.
Okay,
Yeah,
sick.
we
sick.
could we could conclude something like.
Okay.
Yeah, because like I'm in a zone right now, and I think you're the reason why, because I feel like your thought process, your story, your journey, and like just the intimate details of what you shared of being in rock bottom and having a gun to your head, and the journey and fucking like realizations that you came to get out of that to the other side. And we were speaking a little bit before the cameras were rolling about now you're on the rise, right? So what I want to know is, first of all, like, I think the audience can get such, especially the audience that might be viewing this in the form of, I'm in a dark place too, I need to be inspired. I think you can make a world of difference for this kind of person. So, but now that you're kind of on the other side, what's that like? How are you defining what it means to be on the rise and on your come
it's
up?
great. It's great. And this type of rise is not the same as before, where I was just making money, and this type of rise is like, I'm really living. It's almost like I died and now have a second chance. And that feeling, you can't describe it. And for anybody out there, who's in a really bad place, you're a pussy if you kill yourself. That's like, I'm put it out there. You're missing out so much. If you just last that moment, don't do it. Understand that you're living in delusions. It's all delusions. All the pain that you feel is all delusions. And if this is the opportunity for you to conquer that pain, to tell the pain that they can't control you, right? And when you conquer that pain, that rise that I'm going through, I can't talk about the project that I'm going through right now, but it's fucking sick. And it's not even, oh, we're going to make a lot of money, we're going to do all this. No, it will change the world, because I'm no longer afraid of death. I'm no longer afraid of embarrassment. I'm no longer afraid of putting myself out there and being dumb, because I'm already dead, right? I have nothing to lose. And that feeling, I want to keep myself here all the time. Even if I have $1 billion, I'm sleepy on the fucking floor. Because I don't want to lose this feeling of living. Before I was alive, now I'm living. And it's so hard to describe what that feels like. I have so much love around me all the time now. So much. I'm talking about like every fucking day somebody will say something that will warm my heart. Like those painful moments no longer bothers me, right? It's like it's there. I'm still depressed every once in a while, but way less. I'm way more in control. I know what I want now. Like it's hard to describe how free it feels. For not having a single fucking dollar, for not having a girlfriend, for not having all of anything that I thought would make me happy, and yet I'm happy. You know how fucking powerful that is? To know that you can just be happy? You can be happy in solitary confinement. You can be happy on death row. You can be happy while looking at your fucking girl getting pounded by 3 dudes that you never be. You know what I mean? Like, you can literally be happy in those moments. And when I discover that, I just need to breathe. You know, it took us millions of years of evolution for us to have a conscious control of our lungs, and yet we don't have any conscious control over any other organs. There's a fucking reason. It took so much death and energy for us to now consciously be able to control our breathing, right? Now I manipulate my breath enough that I can access that joy. Because I also mentally are strong enough and understand enough perspectives that I can switch. And in those moments that a girl's like, you fucking whatever, it doesn't hurt me anymore. It does, it feels bad, but it doesn't, there's no There's no weight on like, oh, my life now is over, or I didn't get that deal, or if I, you know how vulnerable you are when a job can define whether or not you're gonna live, when a girl can define whether or not you're gonna live, when somebody else have the power to control your heart. You know how fucking weak that make you? Like in terms of not like in terms of like an ego, but in terms of an actual member of society, of a human being. Like you're so dependent on other people doing something so you can feel a certain way. You can't even control your feelings. But for saying that isn't to put down anybody who can't control their feelings, because most of the time I can't either. But it's now that I have been through that process, I have faced my darkest fears, deepest fucking shame, and now I'm on the other side. Like, yo, shame is within me, depression, sadness within me. I can control that. You know, and when you realize it's like, yo, bro, you can't buy me anymore. There's no amount of money, no amount of objects, no amount of things you can threaten me with. You can't even threaten me with my own life because I'm already dead. So, like, I'm fucking free, dude.
They say.
I do whatever the fuck I really want, you know? And obviously there's certain things I can't do because, like, I don't have the money and whatnot, but that I don't want anymore. Because I control what I want now. So I actually control what I want to do. And if I can't do that, I don't want it anymore. Like, it's such a simple way to live. Like,
they say everyone's got two lives. You probably heard this quote.
Yeah, Confucius.
The first life is when we're born.
Yeah.
And then the second life is when we realize we only got one.
Yeah. And now I'm living my second. This is the rise.
Yo, that's a fucking powerful story, man. Like, fuck.
Yeah.
No words. I'm speechless, man.
Thank you. That was the pinnacle, man, of like, I like the pinnacle. When I say the pinnacle, it's like my pain, all that thing that it broken me down to. At that time, I thought it was the worst thing that ever happened to me, and now looking back, that's
what do you mean the worst? Like all of it is
all
the
of
worst?
it is like me having to close down all the shops, having to swallow my ego, having to like watch people I love like turn their back on me and making
to
me
be
the
up
bad
on top
person.
and to be at the complete bottom.
Exactly, and that felt like the worst thing ever. But then now looking back, it's like, bro, I was so blinded before that. Like, that's the best thing that ever happened to me. It's like a bad trip on
But you
LSD.
also learned. You probably learned a lot, and now going from there with what you know now, you'll know what to do and what not to do.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I'm continuous learning, and what I've kind of surrendered to is the idea that there will be more pain in my life, and there will probably be more pain.
What Tom Hanks said in the Round Table interviews is like, this too shall pass.
This too shall pass.
And even like, yo, I'll say that to myself when the highs
is good,
when
yeah.
things are
But
good.
It's a different perspective when you look forward and you're like, bring on the pain because I want it.
Yeah,
Because it's like, this pain is going to enrich me. So
I say that to myself too. When the pain is there, I'm like, yo, this too shall pass.
Yeah.
And I've learned very like a really cool self-soothing technique.
Yeah.
It's just to talk to my inner child and like be my
Fuck yeah.
Yeah. Like there's times where I'm in bed and I'm like dealing with my own shit and yo, it's actually sick. Like I start thinking like, man, if only I had this person, or like I'm all by I'm like, hey, it's okay, man. I got you.
Yeah.
It's me and you, buddy.
Yeah, it's me.
And I'll be like, yo, like everything's gonna be okay. I'll hug my pillow.
I don't know where this quote comes from, but I came across it in like through some book or something. But like, you cannot be more sensitive to pleasure without being more sensitive to pain. Mm-hmm. So like, if you want to live in and access all the best things that life has to offer, you also need to access the worst things that life has to offer.
Absolutely.
It's
And
that duality.
And this is why I'm saying that the Palestinian kids, those are gifts. You know, those miseries are gifts. And even though it's wild as fuck for me to say that, because if I'm in that position, fucking hell, right?
Yeah. I think it's a privilege for us to be even able to like say that. Of
course.
So
Exactly.
we're not in their shoes and
Exactly.
like, yo,
we're not in
we'll
their
never
shoes,
know.
man.
Do you
But
know what I mean?
at the same time, I can see that they are so much better than me. Not better in the sense of anything else, but like they're closer to God. they are more grateful than I can ever be. I'll give you an example. Like when I was down in LA, I just got dumped like in the beginning of 2020, and when I was there, super depressed, and then I was in the car. The Uber driver was like, "Oh, you look kind of sad, like this and that." And he was like very chatty, you know. And I like to chat, so I was like talking to him. He's like, I buy my wife a rose every night when I go home. Like every night when I go home, I give her a rose. I never fail, never fail, no matter what. He's telling me all that story, and I was like, you know what, like. Our modern generation's kind of missing that, you know what I mean? What is different between you guys that we don't no longer do that? And he's like, no, it's not even about generations. He's like, yo, I'm Arabic. I'm from like the Middle East. He's like, when I fell in love with my wife, every goodbye I said to her was an actual goodbye. Because I didn't know if I would see her again. I go to the fucking store. I don't know if I come back or see the love of my life again. Every time I say goodbye to my mom, it's an actual goodbye. And we spend time to say that goodbye. He's like, only because I was so scared to lose her that she stayed the love of my life. You know? And I was like, fuck, dude. This is why we don't have it, because we have too much. We have too many good things. We can't have that because we haven't gone through the pain to have that.
Right. It's crazy because like in many ways it's like it's more real, and you can say it on this, and it's like they like in ways they're living a more real life. Like that's a bit of a misstatement, but like we all say about celebrities that they're so disconnected from reality. Meanwhile, our reality
It's
is
so
like so
disconnected
disconnected
from
from their
theirs.
reality.
Yeah.
And when you're living in a constant perpetual state of fear and survival, like what else like can put you in the present moment?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So they're almost in they are like in the living where we have all these distractions. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. You know, what you just said kind of made me realize something. I think humans are scared of its own infinity. That, the game of money is an infinite game. You can always keep going up. Like the game of anything we do is an infinite game. Just like what you're saying now. Like we look at celebrity things that they're so detached from us, and now we realize we're so detached from them. There's so many infinite levels to everything.
Of course, yeah.
And time makes it finite.
Right.
Time kind of slows down our infinity so we can enjoy this point. And I think we're so impatient to meet our destiny of that infinity that we just end up doing the stupidest fucking shit. If we just let it go and just sit and let it happen to us, it'll always turn out better than we think. Because our mind is bred to only think about the worst things. So by probability, life is going to turn out better than you think. So sometimes I believe that our need to believe in God is really just that. It's just so that we can trust life more than we trust our own mind. Yeah. Because by probability, our life is going to turn out better than the worst case scenario, which is how our mind functions.
Yeah, it's almost like our thoughts are equivalent to our ego.
Yes, our thoughts are our ego. Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
And that's what the Bible preaches as well. It's
Eckhart Tolle.
We are inherently born with evil thoughts.
Yeah.
And like to give that up, to surrender that, to kill your ego death, all that shit. That's where you discover the other side of freedom. Of
freedom, and that's within us too. And I think that's God.
Okay. If you just because we're running out of time, like it's either gonna die or like we're running out of space. We have 7 minutes left.
Okay.
With everything that we kind of like spoke about today, like what would you like if you could leave yourself with some piece of like if you were speaking to somebody who is probably in your shoes, right? Or someone that could, if you were somebody's mentor, what would you leave them with? What would you leave, like, what piece of value would you leave behind after today's conversation?
I think the value is don't be too impressed with how much you can hurt. Pain is inevitable. Like,
Don't be impressed with how much you can hurt.
Yeah, like I felt like every time we're hurt, we're like, oh my God, this hurts so much. Like we're almost like infatuated with
let me try to
darkness of that.
interpret what you
Yeah.
meant by that.
Yeah.
And
Yes,
I
yes,
don't
yes.
mean to, you
Yeah,
know.
for sure.
I think it's in the sense, don't feel alone in your pain.
Yes. Yeah.
Don't
Yes.
think oh,
Don't think
why
it's out
me?
of. Yeah,
Why
exactly.
me?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Don't think that it's out of your realm of normalcy. That is what life is, and know that the reason why the pain happened to you, because you're the one that was chosen. You were meant to go through that pain so that you can get what's on the other side. That's all
God
it is.
doesn't give you battles you can't
Exactly,
handle.
exactly.
Yeah.
So like, don't kill yourself too early. If you want to do it, like, I truly believe in free will and choice. I'm pro-choice. If you truly believe that that is something you should do, all for you. But because I know the mentality it takes to do that, you're delusional in that moment because you are suffering too much. Just sit back. Just enjoy the pain. Literally find any way you can to enjoy the pain and tell yourself that this is the gift, because it is. And one day when that pain passes, when the rainbows start coming in, when the sunshine start coming in, the beaches start opening up, you're gonna understand that because you went through that level of pain, the level of enjoyment you can have, you can be on the same fucking beach with somebody else, you will cry from a fucking sunset. You will cry. Like, the beauty of this life appears after you are okay with suffering. And sometimes you just have to suffer enough to get to that point of being okay with suffering. And maybe that's what God's trying to do to you. Give you enough pain so that you get to see that, yo, life is actually so fucking good. Like, no matter how much money you have, no matter what you have, no matter how shit the situation is, there's always going to be a good moment in your day that you see someone that you feel alive. And that feeling of alive, you'll never have if you're dead. And you're going to die anyways. You're going to die anyways. Life is already fucking short. Why cut the movie in half?
True.
It's fucking beautiful, man.
Thank you.
Cheers to that.
Cheers to that, dude. Fuck yeah.
Cool. So, I don't think there's any outro needed.
Yeah.
Real shit. I'd love to end it right there.
Yeah.